Hi there, Chris Kellett with MuseGrid here, and we're going to take a look at the style guide. Now, in the design kit, we have a design kit starter file, and this includes just a blank page for you to get started with some, which is breakpoint ready. But we also have these two masters here, the master that applies to the basic pages, and we have a style guide master. Now, we don't want you to mess with this here as it applies to this style guide here. You can take a look at it if you wish, but just leave that alone for the most part. Let's go into the style guide itself. So opening that up, we can see that we have a lot of typography and some colors and so on. And let's just go into preview mode. So the intention of the style guide is that this controls the overall look and feel of your design kit site, and all of our design kit elements, patterns, are connected to this style guide. Now that doesn't mean to say that you have to use the style guide, but it can make things easier for you. And from a professional point of view, having a style guide means that you can control the look and feel of your typography and your colors from a single place, which is pretty much what you would do with a corporate style guide for things like typography, colors, logos, and so on. So we thought we'd include this and make it a lot easier for you to visualize some of the parts of your site. Now, we're not adding styles for every single element or pattern section on the page, and the reason for this is, for example, with a menu, there's absolutely no point us including style guide settings for every single state of a menu. So because it's only going to be put on the page once or maybe twice. So those kind of elements are better to be used, to be set up on an individual basis when you're designing your look and feel. However, for overall text like H1 tags and paragraphs, that's what we've got the style guide for. So we can see here that we have some base colors. We've got a 5-color palette model, but you can of course add as many colors as you want and use as many colors if you want. These just apply to some primary colors within the patterns themselves. We have our typography here, and we have our 6 H tags. We have some default paragraph tags here, bullets, pull quotes, and then buttons. So let's take a look at how we can modify these. Well, first off, what we're going to do is we're going to open up this page and we're going to add a library element to the page. Let's say one with some color sections on it. So let's say content, maybe, here we go. Let's just drag this onto the page. Now I've already added the breakpoints at a prior point, so the page will just currently, if you're just opening that up from scratch and you haven't used the breakpoint maker, then watch one of Jason's videos to see how this is done. But we've got our different sections here. Now if we click on the type here, I'm going to double click into the type and I'm going to pull up my paragraphs panel. We can see that this type text here is using the paragraph style H4. If we go into our style guide and we select the H4, I need to make sure that this is unlocked first. So I'm going to go to my layers and I'm just going to unclick or unlock the style guide. There we go. So if I click into this here and go back into my paragraphs panel, you can see that this is using H4. So if I update this here, this is going to update here, which in turn will update any content that uses that style. So let's go ahead and go back to our style guide and we'll click in here. I'm going to go for a Lato. Let's change that to a Lato Light, and we can see that the little plus icon changes. Let's also change the color. So I'm going to change the color to the yellow-orange color here, color 3, and then I'm going to right click and redefine the style. Now what that will do is go through and find anything with that H4 style and update it. So we can see on our home now that this has been updated. The great thing with this is that as we add new elements, so if I go back to my library and I'll pull out something else that possibly has the H4 applied to it. Let's see, let's drag this out and see. There you go. You can see that because this is using an H4 tag as well, and we've already updated it, you can see that as soon as we add that onto the page, that is taking on the style of that paragraph style. So by changing or modifying the style guide up front, you could do it up front, or you could do it when you've got your elements on the page. It'll ensure that you've got control over your typography in a single place, so you don't have to go through the site and change those styles individually. And it does give you a pretty good idea of what your type is going to look like. So that's using the typography, and we could do the same thing with the paragraph style. So we can see if I click into here on the paragraph, the text style, we can see we've got the paragraph default, we have the quotes, we have the bullets. Now interestingly, with the bullets have another panel as well attached to them, which is the bullet style. So we can see that we've got an ordered list, this one's the unordered list, and then we have here an icon list. So that would change, we would use those styles to update the look and feel of those particular endpoints there, the UI or the UL endpoints there. Now, the other thing that we have on here is the colored blocks. So let's take a look at this accent color, so this yellow here. And if I select this color, we can see in our fill panel the color name and so on. We can pull in our swatches panel. So if I just open up my swatches here, we can see that, or the color, we can see that selected there as well. Now we could modify that color there and then, but here's what we want to do. We want to select that color and we want to change it. We're going to change it to a red. I'm going to select the fill here, and I'm going to right click over the color. We can see that it's called color 3. Right click, and I'm going to go to my swatch options. Now when my swatch options open, this will change. This is where I can change the color. So I'm going to go to like this nice red here and click OK. Now you'll notice that because I went through this method of either in the swatches panel or in the fill, I've gone to right click, swatch options, I've updated the color, and then I've clicked OK. You'll notice now that the color 3 has changed. Anything that was using that color 3, because it's a named color, has also changed to red. So I've got this type, this heading 4 that we just changed to that yellow, the accent color on the side of these pull quotes, the icons on the list, and if we go to our home page, we can also see that the text has changed here because the buttons that we were using had also used that color. They've all been updated. So this is a really good way of changing all of the colors for particular parts of the patterns, including with Design Kit all at once. And now we can see our page is coming together, and we've got this nice red, and we can see a bit more visually of how things are going to look. Let's now take a look at the buttons. Now the buttons use a couple of different styles. They use the paragraph style, which is button text, and that's the only paragraph style that we use for these particular buttons. And we can modify how they look. So let's set those to, we're going to update that to square. Let's update this one as well to square. However, we can't see any changes here. So what do we think? What will change this to keep it square, so change all the buttons? Well, we want to go into our graphic styles here. So we've got our graphic styles, and we can see that on this button here, this is button A, and we can see that this is button A normal. So each button has 3 separate states. We have normal, rollover, mouse down and rollover, we usually use the same style, and then our active style. So if I right click now and redefine this style in the graphic style, I'm going to go back to my home page, and we can see now that because we used this button style has been updated. However, we do need to update the other states as well if we want them all to be square. So I'm going to go to the rollover and change those, and then right click, I can match up the graphic style here and redefine the style. I'm going to go to the active state. I'm going to make those square as well. And redefine that style. So now if I go to this home page and just hit preview, we can see that now the style has changed for all of those different states. Okay, so that's using the buttons panel. Now, one thing I will say with the buttons as well is that these aren't the classic. If we go to our library here, very often people use state button, which is a great thing to use, but we find it for these kind of buttons better to use just text. So what we do is we use text, and then we use the spacing panel to add padding around the text itself. What this means is that it's a lot easier to modify the buttons. So if we want to add longer text and so on, we can just drag the buttons out and everything will stay nice and neat to keep these buttons consistent, and makes them a lot easier to update. So if we wanted to update the spacing here, let's update the padding. So I'm going to change this to 15 here. I'm going to hit that so that it links all the styles together and updates them all at once. And now I've got a 15 pixel padding around the text. So if I go to now my my paragraph style, we can see, or the graphic style here, we can see that we can update it there. Okay, so the buttons use a combination of the paragraph style and the graphic style. Now, one other thing is the white text, because we can see that this white text on here, if we go to we can see that the paragraph text is actually using that color 3, that red color 3, or whatever we've changed color 3 to. So how do we get the white? Do we actually just change it to white? Now we could do, but what we'd notice here is that next to the button text we'd have a plus button there. But what we use here is one other style panel from Adobe Muse, which is the character styles. Now what character styles does is you select a piece of text and it wraps that piece of text when you use a character style in a span, so you can just alter a single piece of text. For example, I could select this here, I could go and change it to red, and then I could create a new character style. Let's create a new one there, and let's call that red. And you can see the tag that's going to wrap it around in the HTML. And now what I could do is I could select another piece of text and use my red and just change that. So character styles are used within paragraph styles to change just a specific piece of text. So what we do, instead of having two different button styles, we know that one of our button styles is going to use a accent color, but we want the other one to be white. So what we do is we select that, and you'll see that we have a style called white text. So we can apply that white text. The great thing with that as well is that if we wanted to, let's say for instance, we're going to make this background here. Let's say we make this black and we want this text to stand out. I can select these items here and I can go to my white text, and I'm applying the white text, but I'm not actually modifying the paragraph styles, which means that any changes I make to the paragraph styles, changing of size and so on, spacing, these will still inherit the white text style, so we don't have to update them all. So that's how the character styles work on the buttons. Then we have our icons as well, and I want to show you how to use the icons. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that in a separate video, because I think that that's a sufficient amount of time, nearly 15 minutes to spend on the style guide. I hope that's been useful for you, and in the next video I'm going to show you how we can use the glyphs and icons in your design kit projects. Thanks for watching.